this is the Foxy Five from back in the 70s, minus one. And I did have several questions, among them being like, how did the Foxy Five ever form? How did this come to be? I mean, because you had lots of, dozens of people from whom you could be friends too. How did this happen?
I think the name came from you.
I do too.
Really?
I do too.
I think Arthur named us.
Okay.
I think the five of us were together a lot,
Okay.
and because I was trying to figure out how the name got started, because I don't think we came up with that name.
No way.
I think either you or Carol Arthur
Mhm.
came up with it, and then it just stuck. Like when I was reading all the stuff Fawn sent today, I was like, gosh, everything had us and member of the Foxy Five. Like we were renowned with that name.
It was great. It may well have been Carol. I don't know. And yet, in an era in which feminism was becoming more and more important, it seems kind of odd that that would happen. But it did. It did. Maybe it was totally on the irony channel about that. I don't know.
Maybe, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so if each of you don't mind, what brought you to Crossroads in those early years? Because you had to be kind of gutsy to do it.
Well, I think, well, Christy, you and I, you should chime in, but I think it was our mom who just wasn't really happy with the elementary school, or no, not elementary, but the middle school. And I really don't know how she found out about Crossroads, but she was the one that really drove that.
And I will say also that prior to Crossroads, we had gone for a few years to the college school in Webster Groves. And so that was our first step into kind of like the alternative school. And we loved it there. And then I went to the public junior high for 1 year. And then I think in the meantime, maybe mom found out about Crossroads and she was just all about it. She thought it sounded great, all this alternative learning. It was kind of right up our alley, and she was all about it. So
Did you know Jill at that school?
I'm trying to remember. Do you know, was she there?
I think so.
I think so too.
Then
Yeah.
I would have. I mean, it was another small school like Crossroads was. I don't specifically remember her from there, but Logan Martin went there.
Yeah.
And
a lot. Paul Paget, Todd Heritage. Do those names ring bells?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
I do have a question that's kind of off topic, but does anybody keep in touch with Yolanda Baber?
Such a good question. Okay. And Andy really wanted to reconnect with her because we all lived together in Laclede town.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally tracked her down where she was. And then I think Andy sent an email to her, CC'd me on it. And I was trying to email him back, except I replied to all. And I didn't say anything bad, but it was something about how, don't know whether she's feeling depressed or whether she's just kind of withdrawn or whatever it is. Haven't heard from her since. She's living in San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah.
That last I heard was many, many years ago. That's where she was last I talked to her, but that's been a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, she had her sisters, Melinda and Sandy, also went to Crossroads. Last we heard, Sandy went to Australia, but that was like 35 years ago. Maybe she came back, maybe she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So fun.
You grew up where I did, and a lot of Crossroads kids did in Parkview. So did that make coming to Crossroads easier or?
Well, I guess there were enough U City kids to make a carpool.
Yeah.
Yeah. At one point, Nikki Levine was in the carpool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
My gosh,
No,
his
she-
name.
Like a really successful photographer now.
Nikki
Oh, is she really?
Yeah.
in St. Louis?
Yeah. She's
Wow.
I think she's still in St. Louis. She is Jill's half sister. No, stepsister.
Jill Hazelton?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yep.
What?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Somehow that's ringing a bell phone, but I don't know why. But when you said that, that didn't surprise me.
Yeah.
What about now? I know that she was adopted, as was her brother Ted. Um, Ted, anybody heard anything about him, Ted Levine?
No,
Okay.
but I would love to know what he's doing too. Yeah.
Yeah. What
So
about
the-
Phoebe?
Phoebe,
Oh.
I think, is living in St. Louis, and I had an exchange going with her on Facebook, and then I sent her I said something, and she never said anything back, and haven't heard from her since.
Oh,
Yeah,
It reminded me of
She
Phoebe.
is deeply involved in alternative education with a free school on the South Side in St. Louis.
Really?
Phoebe
We need to
is?
find out more about that. Yeah,
Oh.
'cause her mom did that.
Yeah.
That's
Mary
cool.
Lehman. Yeah. Wow.
She and I connected because my son went to a free school in Albany, New York. And ours was celebrating our 50th anniversary, and it was like one of the first free schools. And she was involved in a newer free school, and I was getting resources from her. She was getting resources from me. It was kind of a nice little back and forth for a little while.
That's neat.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Did
Arthur,
any
you
of you
probably
happen to-
remember the story of me and how I ended up at Logos was because my mom, my biological mom was going to the AA club right next door. And she found out about the school and said, "Oh, well, I want my daughter to go there." And that's how I met everybody but Christy and Susie. And, so it was a cool thing. Life
And then
changing.
you were not the prototypical logo student, correct?
No, just, I went to Webster for a minute, hated it like less than a week. And that's when we ended up at Logos. And no, I was not the typical Logos student. Um, in some ways, yes, because I had a lot of family kind of drama and trauma, but not the typical. Back then, there was a lot of drug usage and a lot of dropping out of school and that kind of stuff, and that wasn't really my profile. But Logos was amazing for me, just like Crossroads was.
Well, tell us how logos changed.
Logos changed probably mid 90s, I want to say, to really get off of, I think our tagline back then was last resort school for kids, and it just was so negative and so,
oh,
just not uplifting. And so we did some rebranding then, and I think I was director of admissions then, and really talked about, this is a place where we give kids a lot of hope that had started to lose hope. And so it just changed our view, and then it changed who we took. It just kind of, as we thought through who we want to be available for, and that we can't be a school for anybody out there, then it really changed and transformed to really now being a school for kids who just struggle with mental health issues of all kinds. And here we are.
Kudos to you and everybody else there. Wow.
Yeah, it's everybody here are amazing. Yeah.
And you're at school as we speak, right?
I am. I'm at school as we speak. Yep, staff come back Monday, so it's game on time.
Got it. Okay. Did any of you happen to see the video with Kevin Villers?
No, I remember
No.
Kevin very well,
Okay.
but I didn't see the video.
Well, Kevin, I mean, I'll let you see it if you're so inclined. But I mean, he had a really interesting history too. And Andy and I often joke about, how we coached two guys into the NFL, that being Kevin and Kirtland Thomas. Both of them just got a cup of coffee. But Kevin went to Soldan, played football there. He went to Northwestern. He was there. Do you remember Kim Reynolds? They were both there together, didn't know that one another were there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Kevin went there because there was an African American football coach there who said to Kevin, I'm not going to do what a lot of other coaches do, which is if you're a black quarterback, make you change positions. And he didn't make Kevin change positions for 2 years, and then he did. And Kevin didn't like that at all. And he then transferred out to Boise State, whatever. He graduated and had a number of different jobs. Right now, he has a PhD in education, and he's principal of a K through 12 school on a Native American reservation in Washington State.
Oh my gosh, how cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh, I'd love to
gosh.
see that video. That's cool.
Yeah. It's
Great.
weird because he's like in a golf cart out on the field. Um, technically there are a lot of problems with it, but it's just great to hear him talk. Yeah.
Oh my
That's awesome.
gosh.
Yeah. David Starr, do you remember him?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
David
remember the
from Cal State,
name.
Missouri, and a woodworker and other things. He's the first student we ever recruited.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. But
wow.
yeah. So,
Vaughn, I have to ask you if I can
yeah.
talk to my brother about you and tell him where you are, because Fawn got really close with my part of my family, and my oldest brother Tom being one of them, and he will just go crazy when he knows
Oh,
we've
definitely,
reconnected.
definitely say
Yeah,
hi.
I will.
I remember dancing in the street with him.
Yeah.
It was such a romantic thing. He's a sweetheart.
He is an attorney. I wish he would retire, but he's been a very, very, very successful corporate attorney. And he is 68. And I'm like, it's time for you to just enjoy life. He's got a really wonderful wife, great family. I mean, he's doing fantastic. But I know he'd be excited to know that we connected.
Yeah,
Is he
for
in
sure.
St.
Say
Louis?
hi.
Is he in St. Louis, Kathy?
Yeah, he's in St. Louis. He lives in Webster, and
Brings up another
yeah.
point. Okay, the St. Louis brain drain. All right. So Kathy and Christy and I are here. So Sue, for you and Fawn, is there any way you could have imagined staying in St. Louis? And if not, were you pushed out or pulled elsewhere?
Well, fine, go ahead. You can go ahead first.
I couldn't stay probably because of my family. Stuff was just being heaped on me in a way that was making it impossible for me to reach any of my own goals. Just family responsibilities and and I didn't go very far. Chicago's like, 6 hours by train.
Yeah.
So I felt like I could get far enough away where people weren't on me daily, but I could get home if I needed to give help to the family. And there's not enough of an art scene in
Mhm.
St. Louis, or there wasn't at the time enough
There
of a
still
gallery
really
scene to keep me there. I needed a little bit more art stimulation than St. Louis could provide. And there was a point
Yeah.
in Chicago where it felt like Chicago didn't have enough for me, and I ended up moving to New York. But the truth is, my family followed me to Chicago. Each one of my siblings ended up living with me at one point or another in Chicago, and but I could also kick them out. Whereas in St. Louis I couldn't.
Understood. Yeah, Sue?
Well, for me, when it came time to look for college, I just wanted to kind of spread my wings a bit and kind of figure out who I was. And so I went first to Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas, and that was not a good fit. So then I transferred to Chapman University in LA, and that was a really good fit for me. Loved it there. And And then after graduation, I met my husband out there, and we moved to Boston so he could go to graduate school. We were only going to stay there for 2 years, but it's been 30 years. So here we are. It just, we were always trying to get back closer to family, but we had built a really wonderful community out here, and just, so we just kind of ended up staying put.
Fantastic. I've heard great things about Chapman. Now I'm hearing more. Yeah.
So Arthur, on the flip side of the coin,
Yes.
I was never going to stay in St. Louis.
Right.
You know, when I was looking for colleges, and my ignorant self didn't really realize what I was putting my parents through, but I said, you know, I'm not staying in Missouri. I'm not staying. I hated St. Louis, and I wanted to get out of Missouri. And so I ended up in college in St. Petersburg, Florida, which I loved. And but eventually came back to St. Louis, and that's where I met my husband. And so we ended up staying. And St. Louis has grown on me. So
Likewise. And before Kathy, it's just if it hadn't been for your husband, we wouldn't be having this gathering, because
right.
Yeah, I mean, do you want
Right.
to tell the story real quickly?
Okay, so it was such a coincidence. So Mike and I made this split kind of decision. We were going to go buy a TV. And so we were in the car together. And the only reason we were in the car together is because we had decided all of a sudden we were going to go get a new TV. So we were in the car, and Mike's phone rings, and he does IT support, IT work. And he's talking to this guy and helping him through some stuff on the phone, and gets off the phone. He's like, that's such a nice guy. And I thought he was talking about somebody at his office. So I said, well, who was it? And he said, Arthur Lieber. And I thought, well, I mean, there's probably a million Arthur Liebers, but I know an Arthur Lieber. And, you know, I just kind of kept asking questions, you know, to figure out, is this the Arthur Lieber? And then finally I was like, I know this is the Arthur Lieber. So I said, text him back and tell him that my wife wants to know if you remember the Foxy 5. Yeah, don't say anything more about who I am. Just say, my wife wants to know if you remember the Foxy 5. So he did. And then you responded back. Yeah.
That is so great. I'm so happy that
It was
happened.
searching for you. Arthur
What's
had
that?
given me the task of trying to find everyone, and I'm going through Facebook like, that person does not look like Susie. That person
Yeah.
does not look like Christy. I could not find you.
Yeah, I'm not on there.
You found me.
But there
I
are
don't
other
know.
people
Well, you
impersonating
sent
you
me
who
an
are there.
email.
Yeah.
I don't know how you found me, but you sent me an email.
Easy.
So Kathy, you did you know you were going to stay in St. Louis?
You know, I don't think I ever, you know, at that point in time back then thought I could leave St. Louis. And so I just looked at colleges here, and never left, you know, stayed, and here I am. And now as I'm looking at retirement in a few years, I, you know, said to my husband, God, we could go anywhere. Cause I've been lots of places, but I've never lived anywhere else. And so we're just having fun. I mean, we'll probably stay here, but we're just kind of daring to dream where we would go.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So anything else anybody would want to say about Crossroads, either you know, what it was like when you were there, or questions you have about it now, anything like that?
Well, I do have this memory, and when I tell people about my Crossroads experience, and I'm trying to explain it, because it's hard to explain how special it is, or was. And so I remember there was a snowstorm coming, and Christy and I were really worried that we would not be able to make it into Crossroads the next day because of the snowstorm. So we begged our mom and dad and asked them, could we please spend the night at Arthur and Carol's? Because we didn't want to miss school. And so what middle schooler, asks, not to miss school, I feel like that's the best way to describe it. And I think you guys said yes.
I think we did, and I think we were in Laclede Town then.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
yeah. So that to me just kind of,
That's awesome. I don't think I knew
Yeah.
that story. That's awesome.
I had totally forgotten that. Yeah.
yeah.
There's another item that, you're kind of talking about coming, in this case, I'm a little bit to the east, but where it was either the first or the second year, we were in Laclede Town, and this huge fire broke out about 10 blocks east of us downtown. And my recollection is that we let everybody go down there and see it, but not really play with fire. But do any of you recall that?
I have a vague recollection of that. If I remember right, it was like a huge fire. It
Yeah.
was like,
They called it a
so-
firestorm.
yeah. Yeah, I have a vague recollection of that.
I
Are there-
wasn't in Laclede Town. I think I came when it was either new or pretty newly moved to the Lindell location then.
And we had 75 kids in that one, still as big as it was still a house.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It was a cool house though. Like
Yeah.
what I was thinking about all the times we sat on the stairs and talked, and I remember outside in the back and all the stuff we would do. It was, but to answer your question, Arthur, I'm pretty familiar with Crossroads today and have
Mhm.
been through every head after you. And I have a dear, dear friend that was a therapist here and is working at Crossroads. And when I hear her talk, there's some of that same love and connection, but what I loved was how it was a family.
Mhm.
It was just a big family with all the staff and us. And yes, the five of us were really close, but I just don't remember much. I'm sure there was conflict and stuff like that. I just don't remember that. I remember it being just a wonderful place to be and
Yeah.
such a small, intimate, connection.
I think we need to freeze this for all time because I think it's so poignant. I think that's the way we were those early years. And when we moved to the Bolivar and when we were expanding to a high school, and Kathy, you know this, how this works, but we had to get teachers who taught physics and foreign languages.
Yeah.
And inevitably their passion was going to be with their subject matter and less so with the kids.
Right.
And it didn't take long for that to happen. And that sense of family, I think we never recovered it. And I think it became unhealthy for a lot of us. It's too bad. I mean, I feel like I've got some wisdom now about things that can be done and not done. But boy, at the time it was all, we were making it up as we went along and things went so well in the beginning. Thanks in no small measure to you all. But I mean, the Laclede Town kids we had, and others, it was great. Yeah. Kathy, even though you weren't in Laclede Town, there were a lot of Laclede Town kids who went up to Lindell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do any of you
Yeah, I
remember
remember
any teachers with either fond memories or negative, which we can just edit out?
Oh my gosh,
Lots.
Jill was hilarious talking about chem. And I remember a book burning and I remember, and then I wrote her back and said, and I remember that Arthur and Carol made us do a eulogy for a feather that came out of Christie's coat. I think it was Christie's coat, but Chem, I remember all the teachers really,
Yeah.
but Chem, I feel bad about because
Yeah.
we were rough on her.
We were brutal. We were brutal
Yeah.
to Kim. I mean, well, I will speak for myself. I was brutal
I was
to
too.
Kim.
Oh, yeah, no, I
I,
think,
I feel
yeah.
terrible about it. But I have nothing but fond memories of
Me too.
all of the teachers, you know, especially Kim, John Chasnov, Andy, um, Eddie Potter. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Karen, yeah.
Karen, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I have no,
Because
no bad memories at all.
Mm-mm.
Great.
you
I
got
love
the
it.
sense, I
Remember
mean,
Sarah and Bob?
Pardon?
Who?
Sarah,
Sarah Duffy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sarah, I think was great. And Fawny, are you there? Did you froze?
Fawn, I think you froze.
No.
no, Sarah Fishbone
Huh?
Oh, Sarah Fishbone, but I think
came
you
in,
froze.
Oh, maybe that's who.
worked with us
Yeah.
on murals and, oh,
Right.
I'm frozen.
Here's Fawn now.
Oh, you're back. You're back. You were frozen for a minute, Fawn.
Fawn, were you talking about Sarah Fishbone or Sarah Duffy?
There you go. I said, do you guys remember Sarah and Bob
Yep.
Fishbone?
Mm-hmm.
The artists who came to work with us on murals and public art projects,
Vaguely.
Yeah, they were great. Yeah.
and Libby.
Libby
I remember
Gil-
Libby,
Yeah.
and I remember
Mhm.
you and your art. I remember
Yeah.
that. Susie,
Well-
what were you going to say?
Did
Well, no,
Sarah Duffy, do any of you remember her? I think unfortunately she had a classroom in the basement of that building.
Mhm. Mhm. I think you're right.
She may still be there. I don't know. Did you know her son, Alan Duffy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was fun.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Sue, what were
Um,
you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that, I mean, all the teachers were amazing, but it was, you just felt, I don't know, respected, that they really valued your opinion and input, and that, I don't know, like we were all working together towards something great. And you could just feel like you could just really trust them with anything, because they really had our best interests at heart. And
And
But-
the time they spent with us, oh my
Yes.
goodness. I mean, we're talking about time outside of school hours. They would take us, you know, I have some kind of recollection of going with Carol, and I don't remember who all, and we were down at the Chase Park Plaza some evening for something, and we were all dressed up, and
Mhm.
the hours that you guys put in to us
Yeah,
is beyond.
Well, thank you. I have this image of Foxy 5 where all of us would be piled into one of our station wagons, and I just see us going through the loop west to probably drop off Jill first. And we may have had Jim Abbott with us, who also lived very close there. Am I remembering anything close to what you all remember?
I
Yeah.
Remember riding in the station,
Yeah.
piling into the station wagons. I remember
Okay.
that.
yeah,
I
And I
think
remember just
those Wednesday field trips, we would often go, the five of us would often go together, and for some reason, we would often go with Carol, because she
Mhm.
put up with us.
yeah,
And she could be going nowhere, just to like the public library downtown, and we'd be like, oh, let's go with Carol,
yeah,
because we can
Yeah.
be idiots and embarrass her in public.
yeah,
so true.
yes.
She loved tolerating you all. Yeah.
You remember that camping trip, we went to a cabin, and she taught us how to play pinochle.
Mhm.
Yes, Pinnacle was big.
Yeah,
It was.
Yeah.
She
That
learned
was-
it from her
that's really
dad, who
I
was in
don't
the
remember
Navy.
that either, but
Oh,
I
I-
remember camping trips. I just don't
Yeah.
remember specifically that one.
Yeah.
And then I remember New Year Eve's party at your place with that
Yeah.
elevator, that the guy who would operate the elevator to go up and down.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 that was an amazing apartment.
Oh,
It
yeah.
Wow.
was. It was. We had ping pong, in the dining room, and a lot of fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Do
have to
you
ask.
keep, do you
Go ahead.
know what happened, Arthur, with like Kem and Andy and Eddie and all of that? Well, Andy, we know he's in
Yeah, well,
Kansas
no,
City.
I'm so glad you're asking, Kathy, because I know some and others I don't, and maybe you all can help me, those I don't. So Andy, yeah, he lives in Greenfield, Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's been there for a long. He lived in St. Louis, for a couple of years, and but his wife was from Massachusetts, and you know, wanted to move back there, so they did. And I'm going to see him tomorrow. We get together for baseball trips and just to be with friends. Um, John Chasnoff is living in St. Louis in Youth City. His wife has been very ill, and he, as I understand it, John, spends a whole lot of time caretaking for her.
Mm.
Um, let's see, who else? Eddie Potter, I wish I knew where he was. Catherine Park might know, um, but I haven't asked her recently. Let's see. Uh, Kim is in DC. Her husband John had been on the editorial board staff of the Post-Dispatch here, and then he became Washington bureau chief of the Post-Dispatch at a time when print newspapers were doing really well, or at least they weren't dying quite the same. Um, but then, the Post was losing circulation, and so he came up with this idea of starting a nonprofit called the Pulitzer Center on Crisis Reporting, because the demise of so many newspapers meant there were a lot fewer reporters covering international stories. So he set up a nonprofit with a lot of money from Emmy Pulitzer to hire interested people in journalism to become freelance reporters on international issues. And it's been great. And the nonprofit that we have, Civitas, we've had maybe 10 of the journalists come out, and, come into classrooms, meet with students. About 10 years ago, John and the program became domestic as well as international. And Kim then became more and more active in the program. And he and the two of them just retired this past May. And I've tried to get Kim to do a video Zoom with us, and it hasn't happened yet, but I will try to do that. And I think if she sees this, well, I don't know, when she hears about, well, you all are repentant, I guess.
Yes.
Tell her how sorry for all.
Yeah,
that-
we are so sorry.
I will have to tell her that. Who
That's
else is on
awesome.
your list, wanting to know about?
Have you heard from Mark Bellucci at all?
Um, yes, this was odd, okay? This was on Facebook, and what I sent to him was something that I sent to a lot of the others, which was, love to get you information about the 50th history and the reunion. Can you just mind sending me your email address? And he got back to me on what's it called on Facebook Messenger, and
Yeah.
he said, "Well, I don't have an email address. I've never felt the need to have one." He's living in South Carolina somewhere. I mean, I tried to come on, and that was maybe 6 months ago. So, anybody else heard from Mark?
He,
You had
No.
fun?
he
Yes,
reached out.
Have you fun?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
He has a couple of kids, and his wife was quite sick, but I think she had cancer, but she got through it. And unlike everybody else we know, did not spend his career looking at a computer screen. He worked in a grocery store in the butcher department, and just had a hands-on job. But I can believe it that he doesn't have an email address.
Yeah.
We
It's
just check
crazy.
in every once in a while. He was like my unofficial big brother when I was a teenager. Like my mom didn't like my boyfriend, she said you could go out with him if you bring Mark Bellucci. And so he had a special role in my life.
Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
that's funny.
Wow.
I
Who,
think
who
I
else are
talked,
we? Who else are we
sorry.
wondering about? Anybody else?
Oh, Christy, we lost you for a minute, babe. You're not
Oh.
frozen, but we didn't hear you.
Well, I think I talked to Mark Bellucci. This has been years. And he seemed to be in the know about where everyone was. And if I remember right, he told me that Alan Smith had died. Is that true? Am I remembering that right?
I think it's true, yeah.
I heard it, and maybe it was from you though, Christy. I don't know, but I thought I heard it from someone else too. And I can't think of who, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah.
I ran it. You know who I heard it from? It was Leo
Oh, Leo
Rose?
Rosen?
Rosen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rachel, but it was Leo
Oh.
who had told me on Facebook, I think. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's just bringing back a memory. We
Yeah.
took a trip to Chicago, I think it was, and we stayed, oh, this is bad. We stayed in this hotel, and it turned out it was not a great hotel to stay in. Do you remember this, Arthur, at all? There were
Was it the
prostitutes.
Allerton, maybe?
But there were like the prostitutes, there was a lot of
Yeah, I do. I remember because Carol and I had stayed there once, and it was, I think we were, migrating from the church basement to a cheap hotel.
yeah, and then we stayed there one night, and you guys were like, you just need to stay put, stay in your room, and we quickly switched and stayed someplace else the next night, but we thought it was just so awesome.
You did?
Well, we were just, kind of
Experience ever. Yeah.
like, wow.
I don't remember that
wow.
either. I remember Washington. I remember the Washington trip. I remember the bus rides and us singing ridiculous songs, and people would fall asleep and we would do stuff to them. And
Yeah.
I remember that.
Oh,
Oh boy, yeah. But Leo and Rachel Rosen, they both have done Zoom interviews, and I think they're really interesting.
Okay.
Rachel is teaching in a school in New Jersey, just outside of New York. They both have really interesting stories, I think.
I'm trying to think, what was the girl's name? It was Beth. It wasn't Dressel, but Beth something. I think her name was Beth.
oh, yeah, Beth.
I just can't think of her last name, and I'm wondering what happened to her. She spent some time with us, Vaughn. I think you and I and her, but I can't remember who I'm thinking of. I may not even have the.
Is
Not
that-
Beth Dressel?
It wasn't Beth Dressel,
Oh,
but I mean, I do remember Beth Dressel
Wasn't there a
very
Beth
well, and I
Driscoll,
actually,
too?
huh?
A Beth Driscoll? Also, does that name ring a bell? No, apparently
It
not.
was Beth Driscoll. I'll have to look.
Might
It
have come
could be
later.
someone I went to Logos with too. It's possible, but Beth Dressel I ran into probably, oh gosh, I'm terrible with time. I'd say 5 or 10 years ago, maybe 7 to 10 years ago. And they were still running Dressels back then,
Hmm,
in the Central West End, but I think that's been some years ago.
yeah.
It's still there.
I think they sold it, but I'm not sure.
Oh, did
I'm
they?
not for sure.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not
I know
sure
her,
about that.
her brother was real big into running it.
Okay.
I didn't know if, I haven't talked to Joe, gosh, in 20 or more years.
Yeah.
I would love to.
And Left
So
Bank
many
is doing
people I
well
would
down there.
love to see. There's so many people I would love to see.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a reunion if you're close by, and that could be fun.
You know
And
more, Arthur, about the Sunday thing, like where you were going to try to get groups of the years together? Is that going to come
yeah,
to?
I don't know if that's happening.
That might be hard.
I think
Yeah.
it can kind of happen osmotically, with the
Yeah.
early years. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to also ask what you all think. If I'd asked this question, I think a month ago, it would have been very different. But what you think of the political situation in this country, in the world?
Yeah. It sure would have been different a month ago.
United States of America,
Oop.
United Kingdom, Japan.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Enough to
I
come
am too.
back?
Enough to come back.
Well, I can do a lot of good from here.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
I-
you
Before
I-
we go, you're going to have to tell us. Yeah.
Part of my week is working with Democrats abroad
Oh, okay.
and signing up gringos so that they vote in the presidential election, in the general election.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
we-
that's cool.
Are
Let
you in
writing
Mexico
campaign.
because of I'm sorry, are you in Mexico because of the political situation, or you're there?
No,
Oh, I
Mm.
just, by the question, I wasn't sure if that's why you had moved to Mexico
No,
or, oh,
no.
okay.
We came for a 1 year sabbatical just to check it out. And
I love
within 3 months, we thought, well, why would we go back? It's just so wonderful here.
That's
Awesome.
awesome.
The climate's nice, the people are nice, the food is great, it's cheaper to live here. I don't have to work. I can just be an artist,
Wow.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
You know, Arthur, what strikes fear in my heart is helping kids. I planned all the training for next week when the staff come back, and I'm reviewing it and I'm like, God, I didn't put anything in there about helping our kids through all the insanity and different stuff that they hear between now and the election and even beyond. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about hate and hate speech and, that kind of stuff. But I just, my heart hurts for our kids, and we have kids from a 65-mile radius. So let me tell you, we get a cross section of the world. We have people that are very, very, very conservative Republican with people that are very liberal to the far other side. And so it's scary. It's sad to see
Yeah.
some of what's going on, but I feel better about right now about things. So we'll see.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
I'm definitely glad to see that there's some life that has been breathed into this. I was after the debate, I was like in a serious depression. Like, yeah,
Terrible.
it was scary.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful
Yeah.
again.
And Sue?
Yeah, I am now hopeful. I wasn't, after the debate but I'm still holding my breath. I
Mhm.
guess I just have a hard time understanding why it's so close, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's interesting, Andy and I and other friends who were in our 70s and, just talk openly about how we don't remember what we once remembered and don't walk the way we once walked. And as great as Biden has been in a lot of ways, it just took forever for him to come with that self-realization.
Although I'm thinking that it ended up being a good thing because I don't know if there would have been this much excitement and this
Yeah.
much energy behind Kamala Harris if it had just been, I'm dropping out, and then people would have felt like, no, that's not the candidate I wanted, or I don't know. Kind of in some ways, I feel like this ended up being the best way to create this much excitement for her.
Mhm. It looks like a master plan, but probably wasn't.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
there are conspiratorial people on the right who think it
Oh,
was.
there are
Yeah,
that are
yeah.
saying this all. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
you
I
guys,
just-
don't you think that Tim Waltz reminds you a little bit of Arthur?
my God,
Yeah.
what a compliment.
That is a compliment, but that's funny when you say that, because now that I think about it, that's true. I didn't make that connection, but it's true.
And I'm reading all these descriptions and I'm thinking, oh, this is like an Arthur guy, somebody who's like important to all the people whose lives he's touched.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
God, wouldn't that be cool?
Well,
I'd
he's a
be all right
social
with
studies
that. If we
teacher,
had
which
an
is really,
Arthur-like person.
oh
Yeah.
my God, well, he must have been fun. A state champion football coach. No, that's not me. But anyway, yeah, I'll take the compliment. I just threw in the chat a link to a newspaper. The nonprofit that we have now, Civitas, is like mini Crossroads. And we had 2-week program where kids did Campaign 24 with all the stuff going down, which was, definitely fun. So they put together a newspaper. We did that at Crossroads because the school used to have a really great newspaper. There were a whole bunch of them. And Kevin Villers, he was able to find some of them. They're on the website that'll be live in 2 weeks or something. But anyway, this newspaper reminds me so much of Crossroads stuff. So you all might be.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah,
And then if you think of it, Arthur, will you send us Kevin Villar's video? I would love to see
well,
that.
it's on the website. If you
Oh,
go
is it on the,
to-
okay,
But
okay,
wait, I'll send you something in about a week because the new one, which is much better,
okay.
I did such a crappy job, but I was trying to do a lot of different things. So I will we'll go live probably next week at this time, and there'll be all that stuff. And Fawn, your incredible recollections in there. I mean, wow.
So cool.
You and Jim Abbott, wrote these really lengthy, descriptive, wonderful pieces.
Jim has a photographic memory, like visual. He can see it and describe it in immense detail. It's amazing.
Well, his drawings, I just remember he would, and I actually have one. I have to see if I still have it because I remember thinking, oh, he is going to be either this famous architect or, because he would draw buildings and Jackie O. But it was just incredible, his drawings.
Yeah.
He wrote a book about the Kennedy White House.
Wow.
He
Yeah.
did?
Jim did. Yeah. What's it called? Camelot Revisited. Let me see if I can find it.
Did you guys see the email from Jill about the book she wrote? I haven't looked up the book yet because I got so busy, but I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
And Fawn, do you have like a website with your art? So we
Oh,
could,
I'll put that on the chat.
okay.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, that would be
great.
fun. Yeah.
I always, I mean, you were such the artist at Crossroads.
Oh
and
my God. Yeah.
you just always thought, oh, that's where you're going. That's what you're going to be doing. Kind of cool.
For some reason, I've just always remembered those T-shirts that you designed, the Crossroads T-shirts and all the
Oh, with the
letters.
little people.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I think I may still have that like in a box somewhere or something. I
I'm
don't
like,
know.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Here it
when
is.
Fawn sent the cover of the yearbook in her pictures today, we're in the middle of cleaning out our basement just to my husband has to have everything neat and tidy. And so we have all of our grown kids and grandkids stuff in there. And I am sure that there's a box down there with my Crossroads yearbook and Crossroads stuff. So that's part of our project this weekend. So we'll see if I find anything and I'll let you guys know if I find anything.
Now, Arthur, I remember
Yes.
you have a brother who was really good with dates, right? You could
Yes.
ask him any date and he could tell
Oh,
you
yeah.
something.
He's going to call in a few minutes if you want to. I mean, yeah, you remember the movie Rain Man with
Yeah,
Tom Cruise?
that's
Yeah.
what you described him as.
Yeah. I don't think I can loop him in now, but I could do that for a few minutes in a future gathering if we do that. But yes, he's doing well. I mean, when he was born, he didn't have that long a life expectancy, but he's doing well and it's
Oh.
great. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So I
Yeah.
put the longest URL in the world there in chat, which is to Jim's book on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right.
And Jill's I did look at, and it's dense. It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I noticed-
goes against the mainstream liberal
Yeah.
thinking for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean-
the liberals are saying you got to win the hearts and minds,
Right.
and she's saying fuck that.
Which sounds like Jill.
Force works.
I'd love to hear her say personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too.
Oh, that would be a very interesting conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. I'm going to send this chat out to everybody.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I didn't
That's
put
great.
mine on.
Can I ask a question of the group?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, you want me to stop the recording?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
So do you all have children?
Mm.
So
Who's going first? Sue,
Two
go.
more questions. Do you have children and did you send them to an alternative school? while you were bringing them up.
Okay. So I guess I'll go first. I have 3 children, all grown. Caitlin is 28 and she is in DC, working at the Senate Appropriations.
Wow.
And Sarah, my middle child, she is 26. She's living in Wisconsin, and is getting married at the end of this month. And then they plan to move back to the East Coast. And then Ryan is 24 and he works at McLean's Hospital. And they deal with a lot of mental health issues. And yeah, so, oh, and I sent them, they all went to public school. I didn't, yeah, they went to public school, but I was pretty happy with the education system out here, so that's why. If there was a Crossroads like school that I had known about, I would have sent them there in a heartbeat, but yeah.
Who's next?
Well,
Kristen.
I'll go next. I have 2 sons. Jeffrey is 29. He is married. Both Jeffrey and Zachary got married 2 summers ago. He's married. He's here in St. Louis. He is an electrician apprentice and finishing up that program. And Zachary is also here in St. Louis now. He's been here for about a year. He, like I said, got married 2 summers ago as well. He's computer engineer. So they're both doing well. I would have liked to have sent them to a private school. I never felt like it was financially feasible to do that. But education was hard, especially for Jeffrey, who struggled a lot. Yeah.
And you were in the Parkway or Rockwood district?
We're in Rockwood. And there were good resources to a point. But just to a point.
Got it. Kathy?
I have 4 grown kids. My one is 37, and then I have 3 bonus kids that I've pretty much raised since they were young. So I have 4 grown kids, 38, 37, 35, and 30. Jessica lives in Overland Park, Kansas. And when you said Kansas City, it made me smile because I spent a lot of time there. And she has 3 kiddos, 4, 3, and 1. And then Kristen lives here. Not married, no kids. And Corey is the only boy in the crew, and he lives in Connecticut. Not married, no kids. And then Emily, the youngest, is married, has 2 kids and a 3rd on the way. So I'll have 6 grandchildren soon. But all of the kids went to public school except when Emily was a teenager, we sent her to the alternative school through Pattonville called the Positive School. And it was really cool. In fact, it reminded me a lot. Wasn't in a house and didn't have that same homey feel as Crossroads, but a lot of their philosophies and how they worked with kids reminded me a lot of Crossroads. And she was there for 2 years, and it was a really good place for her.
That's really cool to hear. Yeah.
Fun.
I have 1 son. We got a late start, my husband and I. He's 18 and he went to public school up until about 4th grade, and we realized he's getting sent to detention a lot. like
Mm.
like multiple times in the day.
Hmm.
And we tried all kinds of different things to work with the system. And we were living in a small town in upstate New York, and it was a small school, and I thought we could manage it, and we probably kept him in the public school a year too long, and ended up researching, what are the alternatives around, and found this free school. Actually, there were two. There was one in the Woodstock, New York area, and one in the Albany area. And he visited both, and he chose the Albany one because it had a diverse population.
Mm.
And my son is adopted, and he has darker skin. And the Woodstock free school, everybody was white, and he just was like, I'd like some other colors of skin.
That's
So
awesome.
he had a really good time at the free school. He made friends for life. It wasn't the academic situation I would have wanted for him, but it was the right place for him to learn how to self-regulate. It was so. But that kind of situation, as we know, gives you that sense of that you have a lot of agency as a young person, and in a setting like that, and then you're ruined for life. Like,
Yeah.
where are you going to go next? That is going to give you that kind of respect, and that feeling like you can determine your own education, your own future. And so I guess he had 1 year in public school during COVID online, and he learned nothing.
Right.
Zero. He learned how to use Zoom. That's it. And even that's questionable. So we ended up going to Mexico because my husband was retiring, and we thought we'll let him pick the school. And we interviewed all these different schools, and weirdly, he picked a parochial school.
Wow.
And I'm Jewish, but my husband doesn't have a religion, and Milo doesn't have a background, but he's exposed to a lot of different beliefs. So he had a year at that school. It was 10th grade, and he learned Spanish. He's fluent in 1 year. I'm still struggling with, do you have tomatoes? And he is like having philosophical discussions with his friends.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
He did flunk 10th grade, but he learned Spanish. So we're super proud of him. And then we found a school in the next city over it's like the best prep school in Mexico. Really difficult, but it had some classes in English, and I thought it would give him a leg up. Well, he just, he did terribly. He's a terrible student. He's a smart kid and a terrible student. So he got through 1 year, past 1 year. The next year, we realized he's just learning how to cheat using AI. So we took him out, and he's been working, and mostly in the movie industry. There's a lot of filmmakers here.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I tell kids all the time, Fawn, at Logos, that for some kids, school is just not in your DNA.
No.
I mean, it's just, and that's okay. You just have to find your something that you love and go after it, and so I say that all the time. I thought about that for Jeffrey for years with Christy, and he's doing amazing now. And so it's just not everybody's something.
It's hard when you're a person who is, I'm not that academically inclined, but both the husband and I are really pushing him toward at least get your GED.
Yeah.
If you want to go to college,
Yeah.
you might get a film degree. So we're pushing him in that direction. I know there's some great schools in Mexico City and Guadalajara, and they cost like a tiny fraction of what college costs in the US. So I'm really hoping he'll want to go to school here.
That's great.
But the free school was a great experience for us. I was on the board, although it was nuts during COVID. I'm sure Kathy.
Oh God.
All the
Awful.
changes
Yeah.
you had to go through to keep serving a student population during that pandemic was just insane.
Yeah, it was.
And the founders and the second and third generation of that school are are anarchists. So, you know, I don't know if you've ever dealt with anarchists. They're tough. It's hard to make decisions with them.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, and there again, you know, during the pandemic, I mean, the political climate, I just, you know, my heart was breaking for all these, you know, school administrators, you know, with all this arguing about mask mandates and, you know, it was insane. And Kathy, I'm sure, you know, I mean, this is just, you know,
Well, and I was never more happy in my life to be running an independent school.
That's
Because,
that. Yeah.
you know, it's so true because I was just really open and honest with my parents about my goal is to not get anyone in your family, you know, seriously sick. And so I'm going to work with you for that being our goal, and everybody united. And I mean, I really didn't have a lot of grief. And when all the mandates came out, I was like, here's what we have to follow in St. Louis County. So we got to follow it. Now let's figure out how to make it work, you know? And so, yeah, yeah. Well, this was great, Arthur.
Yeah, this
really
was terrific. We can do it again. You all can do it without me, and hopefully with Jill, Jackie. But I will get the video of this. I'll probably send it off real quickly to a place called rev.com that does transcripts, so I can send you both the video and the transcript. So with a transcript, you can search, like for when Fawn said fuck, you know, or something like that.
That was Jill, and she wasn't on here.
Oh yeah, okay, okay.
so I want to just say to you, and I know Carol's not with us anymore, but and every single teacher from Crossroads, you know, I just the feeling of love and acceptance despite all of my stupidness. It's just something that I don't think many kids get to experience. You know, I mean, they weren't just our teachers, they were our mentors, they were our friends, they were, you know, they were everything. They saw us, you know, you saw us, you listened to us, you took us seriously, you respected us, our crazy ideas, and it just is something I wish all kids could experience, but something I'm forever grateful to have had in my life.
Well
Thank
said,
you, thank
Christy.
you so much. I sure wish Carol could have heard this.
Mhm.
And you know, I think we were all fortunate to be in that place at that time.
Yeah.
The more I
Yeah.
think about it, it's hard to replicate, but I think we're all stronger for it. And you know, it's somewhat of a cliche, but we learned as much or more from you as you did from us. So I hope we keep in touch. We can do
And
it. Does
I would love
anybody
it.
take the initiative? We've got everybody's email now that Christy got us Sue's properly. So we're good, and let's do it, okay?
I would love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about your lives and what you've done and where
Yeah.
you are and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more catching up we can do for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, Arthur.